Your Honor, Gregory sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. These women are nothing more than opportunists trying to exploit this company for money they don't deserve. The courtroom seemed to shrink under the weight of his words. His tone was sharp, almost surgical in its precision, as if he were dissecting their character rather than presenting a legal argument. He leaned casually against the podium, exuding arrogance like it was second nature. Every glance he cast toward Maya and Nia carried contempt, as though their mere presence offended him. Maya's jaw tightened beneath her composed exterior. Beneath the polished oak table, her hands clenched into fists so tight that her nails dug into her palms. She could feel her heartbeat pounding in her ears, each thud echoing the injustice she had endured. Beside her, Nia whispered softly, her voice steady but firm, "We can't let him win. Not here, not now." The tension in the room was suffocating. It wasn't just about winning or losing anymore, it was personal. The stakes felt insurmountable, yet something within both sisters refused to back down. They knew Trent's words weren't aimed at them alone. They were meant to undermine anyone who dared challenge the system, and they couldn't afford to stay silent. Before Gregory could continue his tirade, a deep, commanding voice cut through the air like thunder. Asterisk enough. Asterisk every head in the courtroom turned toward Judge Elijah Rivers. His voice carried an authority that demanded respect, silencing even the faint rustle of papers shifting on desks. There was no mistaking his intent. He would tolerate no further manipulation. Gregory froze mid-sentence, his confident smirk faltering for the first time. He glanced up at the judge, visibly unsettled by the sudden shift in power dynamics. Across the room, Maya and Nia exchanged a fleeting look. Relief flickered across their faces, but it was quickly replaced by cautious hope. Judge Rivers leaned forward slightly, his piercing gaze scanning the room before settling heavily on Gregory. "This court requires evidence," he said, his tone unyielding. "Real proof, not baseless accusations or theatrical displays. If what these women claim is true, then justice will be served today." For a brief moment, the entire courtroom seemed suspended in time. The judge's words hung in the air, resonating deeply with everyone present, including Maya and Nia. But there was something else in his demeanor, something unreadable, that left them uneasy. As the bailiff called for order, the twins couldn't shake the feeling that this man held more sway over their fate than either of them realized. As Judge Rivers addressed the courtroom, his eyes lingered on Maya and Nia longer than necessary. It wasn't overt, just a fraction of a second too long, but enough to make them uneasy. His expression betrayed nothing, a mask of impartiality etched onto his face. Yet, behind those dark eyes, there was a flicker of recognition, subtle yet undeniable. Maya noticed it first. Her breath hitched slightly as she studied him, searching for clues in the lines around his mouth, the set of his jaw. Why did he seem so familiar? Was it simply because they shared the same skin tone? Or was there something deeper? She glanced at Nia, whose brow furrowed ever so slightly as though she, too, sensed the unspoken connection. Nia leaned closer, her voice barely audible. "Do you think—" "Not now," Maya interrupted, shaking her head almost imperceptibly. Whatever it was, now wasn't the time to dwell on it. Still, the question lingered between them, unanswered but impossible to ignore. The judge's gaze broke away, returning to the matter at hand, but the seed of curiosity had already been planted. Who was this man, really? And why did his presence feel like both a threat and a promise? Before either sister could fully process their thoughts, the judge announced, "Let us proceed." And the narrative began to unravel further, pulling them back to where it all started. It had been 6 months earlier when Maya and Nia first walked into Valiant Tech, their hearts brimming with ambition and dreams of making a difference. Fresh out of Howard University, they carried not only degrees but also a desire to prove themselves in an industry notorious for its lack of diversity. From day one, however, the atmosphere felt off. Colleagues greeted them with polite smiles that never quite reached their eyes. Conversations stopped abruptly whenever they entered a room, leaving behind awkward silences that spoke louder than any words could. Did you see the way Karen looked at me this morning? Maya asked during one of their lunch breaks, her frustration bubbling over. Like I didn't belong here. Nia sighed, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. It's not just you, she replied quietly. They've mistaken me for the IT help desk 3 times this week. 3 times. Their laughter was tinged with bitterness, a coping mechanism against the microaggressions that chipped away at their confidence daily. But even then, neither of them imagined how far the discrimination would go, or how much it would cost them to fight back. And yet, as memories of those early days surfaced, Maya found herself wondering again about Judge Rivers. Could he somehow understand what they'd been through, or was she reading too much into his gaze? The answers remained elusive, buried beneath layers of unresolved questions, even as the story continued to unfold. Are you ready for this? Maya asked, her voice brimming with excitement as she adjusted the strap of her leather portfolio bag. Nia smiled, calm but equally determined. We've been waiting for this moment our entire lives. Let's show them what we're capable of. Their first day at Valiant Tech was supposed to be the beginning of something extraordinary, a chance to break barriers and create meaningful change in an industry that often overlooked people like them. Dressed impeccably in tailored blazers and confident smiles, they walked into the sleek glass building filled with hope. Yet almost immediately, subtle signs began to surface that their journey wouldn't be easy. Colleagues glanced at them with polite indifference, some even mistaking them for administrative staff or interns despite their polished introductions. One man muttered under his breath about diversity hires as he passed by, assuming they couldn't hear him. Maya clenched her jaw slightly, her fiery nature simmering just beneath the surface. Nia placed a reassuring hand on her arm. Don't let it get to you, she murmured softly. We're here to prove ourselves, not react to ignorance. The contrast between the twins was striking, Maya's boldness balanced perfectly by Nia's composed demeanor. Together, they were unstoppable. But as the day wore on, the dismissive glances and whispered assumptions began to weigh heavily on both of them. Still, they refused to back down. They had worked too hard to let anyone undermine their potential. It started small, a colleague asking if they'd been hired because of affirmative action quotas. Another mistaking Maya for someone who could fix the printer simply because she happened to walk past it. Each incident felt insignificant on its own, but together, they formed an insidious pattern that chipped away at their confidence. You know, Maya said one evening over takeout containers in their shared apartment, I'm starting to think Karen doesn't even know my name. She called me the new girl again today. Nia sighed, picking at her food. And Greg asked me twice this week if I needed help understanding the project brief. Like somehow being black means I can't read technical jargon. Maya slammed her fork onto the table, frustration boiling over. Why do they keep doing this? We're qualified, damn it. We earned our spots here. Nia remained quiet, her mind racing. While Maya processed anger outwardly, Nia internalized every slight, letting it build until it threatened to overwhelm her. Neither approach felt right. They were stuck navigating a world that refused to see them as equals. One particularly grating moment came when a senior executive introduced them incorrectly during a meeting. This is, Maria and Naomi, right? He said, stumbling over their names before laughing nervously. The room fell silent, save for a few awkward chuckles. Maya forced a tight smile while Nia nodded politely, though inside, they both burned with indignation. It's Maya and Nia, Nia corrected gently, her tone measured but firm. The executive waved a hand dismissively. Right. Close enough. Close enough wasn't good enough, not for them. And as these moments piled up, the weight of systemic racism became harder to ignore. But even amid the growing frustration, a spark of determination remained. They weren't going to let anyone diminish their worth or their dreams. Late nights at the office became routine for Maya and Nia as they poured their energy into developing a proposal aimed at creating accessible technology for marginalized communities. It was more than just a project. It was personal. This could change everything, Maya said, her eyes lighting up as she sketched out ideas on a whiteboard. Imagine giving people tools that actually work for them instead of forcing them to adapt to systems designed without them in mind. Nia nodded, adding notes to their document. It's innovative, practical, and impactful. There's no way Claire won't see the value in this. When they finally presented their idea to Claire Harper, their manager, they expected resistance but not outright dismissal. That's ambitious, Claire said after barely glancing at their proposal. But unrealistic. I don't see how this aligns with our current priorities. Maya leaned forward, her voice steady but urgent. With all due respect, accessibility isn't just a trend, it's a necessity. This initiative will position Valiant Tech as a leader in inclusive innovation. Claire shrugged, already turning her attention elsewhere. Let's revisit this when there's more bandwidth. For now, focus on your assigned tasks. Disheartened but undeterred, Maya and Nia returned to their desks, vowing to refine the proposal further. Weeks later, however, they stumbled upon a company-wide email announcing Claire's latest groundbreaking initiative, an exact replica of their idea, presented under her name. No, Nia whispered, staring at the screen in disbelief. She didn't just reject us, she stole it. Maya stood abruptly, pacing the room. She thinks she can erase us, pretend we never existed. But she's wrong. Dead wrong. Nia watched her sister, torn between fury and despair. What are we supposed to do now? Fight back? Expose her? We have to, Maya replied, her voice resolute. This isn't just about us anymore. If we stay silent, she'll keep doing this to us, to others. No one deserves to have their voice stolen. As the reality of Claire's betrayal sank in, Maya and Nia realized they were facing a battle far bigger than themselves. But rather than succumbing to defeat, they resolved to confront the injustice head-on, even if it meant risking everything. The fight was only beginning. This font size is inconsistent, Claire Harper said, her voice sharp as she flipped through Maya's report. And you've used 2 spaces after each period instead of 1. Honestly, how do you expect me to take this seriously? Maya clenched her fists under the conference table, biting back a retort. Her report, a meticulously researched proposal for improving accessibility in software design, was being torn apart over formatting errors that had nothing to do with its groundbreaking ideas. Nia watched silently from across the room, her jaw tightening as Claire continued nitpicking every minor detail while ignoring the substance of the work entirely. It wasn't just Maya. Nia had noticed the same pattern creeping into her own assignments. No matter how flawless their output, Claire always found something to criticize. Meanwhile, less qualified colleagues were receiving glowing praise and promotions. Greg, whose presentations often lacked depth but aligned perfectly with Claire's preferences, had been fast-tracked for leadership training. They're setting us up to fail, Maya muttered later that afternoon as they grabbed coffee in the break room. Nia nodded grimly. Or making sure we stay invisible. The frustration simmered beneath the surface, growing heavier with each passing day. They weren't just fighting individual critiques anymore. They were battling a system designed to keep them down. Let's move on to next quarter's priorities, Claire announced during the weekly team meeting, her tone clipped and dismissive. She turned toward Maya, who sat at the far end of the table. Maya, I assume you've prepared an update on your accessibility initiative? Maya straightened in her chair, determination flickering in her eyes. Absolutely. This initiative has the potential to revolutionize user experience for marginalized groups. By implementing adaptable interfaces, Claire cut her off mid-sentence. Hold on. Are you saying our current products aren't inclusive enough? Because that sounds like criticism of the entire department. It's not criticism. It's an opportunity. Maya shot back, her voice rising slightly. We can lead the industry by prioritizing inclusivity. Claire raised an eyebrow, leaning back in her seat. Opportunity or disruption? You seem awfully aggressive about this. A collective murmur rippled through the room. Some colleagues shifted uncomfortably. Others smirked behind closed hands. Before Maya could respond, Nia interjected calmly. What my sister means is that innovation requires bold thinking. We believe Valiant Tech should be at the forefront of these changes. Claire's gaze shifted to Nia, her expression unreadable. Bold thinking doesn't mean disregarding protocol. Both of you need to learn when to speak and when to listen. The sting of humiliation hit hard. Maya stared at the table, her cheeks burning, while Nia forced herself to maintain composure. The message was clear. No matter what they said or did, their voices would never truly matter here. I can't keep doing this, Maya said, pushing her untouched sandwich aside. Every single day, it's another reminder that they don't want us here. No matter how hard we try, they'll find ways to make us feel small. Nia sighed, stirring her tea absent-mindedly. I know it feels impossible right now, but giving up isn't an option. If we walk away, they win. They get to erase everything we've worked for. Maya looked up, tears glistening in her eyes. But what's the point if nothing ever changes? Even when we come up with brilliant ideas, they either reject them or steal them outright. Nia leaned forward, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. Then we document everything. Every insult, every dismissal, every stolen idea. We build a case so strong they won't be able to ignore it. For the first time in weeks, Maya felt a flicker of hope. Maybe there was still a way to fight back. We'll start tonight, Nia added firmly. One step at a time. That evening, Maya and Nia sat side by side at their kitchen table, laptops open and notebooks scattered around them. This email chain proves Claire dismissed our proposal without even reading it, Nia said, highlighting key sections. And here's Greg presenting the exact same concept as his own idea 3 weeks later. Maya scrolled through screenshots of text messages and Slack conversations, cataloging every instance of bias they'd encountered. She called me too ambitious when I asked for feedback on my performance review. Meanwhile, Greg got promoted for doing half the work. As the hours passed, their evidence grew more damning. Yet, a lingering fear hovered over them. What if reporting this only made things worse? What if HR sides with her? Maya asked quietly, breaking the silence. Then we escalate, Nia replied without hesitation. We go public, file a lawsuit, do whatever it takes. They can't silence us forever. With cautious optimism, they compiled their findings into a formal complaint and submitted it to HR the next morning. For now, all they could do was wait and hope someone would finally listen. 2 weeks later, Maya and Nia received a curt email summoning them to a meeting with HR. After listening to their concerns, the HR representative folded her arms and delivered the verdict. We've reviewed your claims, and unfortunately, it seems like a misunderstanding. Claire assures us she's committed to supporting both of you. A misunderstanding? Maya repeated incredulously. How is blatant discrimination a misunderstanding? The representative avoided eye contact, her tone apologetic yet firm. Without concrete proof beyond emails and notes, it's difficult to substantiate your allegations. Moving forward, I suggest focusing on building better communication with your manager. As they left the office, Nia gripped Maya's arm tightly. This isn't over, she whispered fiercely. If the system won't protect us, we'll have to find another way. Defeat weighed heavily on them, but deep down, they knew surrender wasn't an option. Something or someone would give them the chance to reclaim their power. We have reason to believe you've been sharing sensitive company data with our rivals, Claire Harper announced, her tone icy and deliberate. Maya's breath caught in her throat as she stared at Claire, disbelief etched into every line of her face. What? That's insane. We would never. Save it, Claire interrupted, cutting Maya off with a dismissive wave of her hand. She turned to the senior executives seated around the conference table, their expressions ranging from skeptical to outright hostile. This isn't speculation. Internal audits flagged unusual activity linked directly to their accounts. Nia leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. If there's an issue with our work, we deserve the chance to explain. But accusing us without evidence is reckless and unfair. One of the executives smirked, muttering under his breath, always playing the victim card. The comment struck like a slap, leaving both sisters seething. Maya clenched her fists under the table, while Nia forced herself to maintain composure. They knew this wasn't about facts, it was about control. Claire crossed her arms, her expression smug. For now, consider yourselves suspended pending further investigation. As they were escorted out of the room, Maya whispered to Nia, "This can't be happening. How could they do this to us? They're trying to silence us?" Nia replied quietly, her mind racing. "But we won't let them win." Security guards flanked Maya and Nia as they made their way through the office, drawing stares from every direction. The hum of keyboards stopped. Conversations died mid-sentence. It felt like walking through a gauntlet of judgment. Maya kept her jaw clenched, refusing to meet anyone's gaze, though she could feel the weight of their whispers pressing down on her. Nia walked beside her, head held high despite the storm of emotions swirling inside her. "Did you hear that? They got what was coming to them." One colleague muttered loud enough for them to hear. Another snickered. "Guess affirmative action hires aren't all they're cracked up to be." Maya's heart sank further when she noticed someone filming the scene on their phone. Her stomach churned as she realized the implications. This wasn't just humiliation, it was public spectacle. "Someone's recording us?" Maya hissed under her breath, panic creeping into her voice. Nia glanced briefly at the phone before looking away. "We'll deal with it later. Right now, we need to focus on staying strong." But even as she said the words, doubt gnawed at her resolve. What if this was only the beginning? What if the world decided to believe the lies instead of the truth? Late that night, Maya couldn't sleep. She grabbed her phone, scrolling aimlessly until she stumbled upon the first video. There they were, their forced march through the office captured in excruciating detail. The comments section was a minefield of cruelty. Asterisk, karma's a bitch. Asterisk, asterisk, affirmative action strikes again. Asterisk, asterisk, good riddance to bad employees. Asterisk, her hands trembled as she scrolled further, tears welling in her eyes. Supportive messages existed, buried beneath layers of venom, but they offered little comfort. Nia found her sitting on the couch hours later, still glued to the screen. "You shouldn't read those," she said gently, taking the phone from Maya's grasp. "How can I not?" Maya snapped, her voice breaking. "Everyone thinks we're liars, thieves, failures. It's everywhere, Nia. We can't escape it." Nia hesitated, searching for the right words. "They want us to feel powerless, to shrink away and disappear. But if we do that, they win." Maya shook her head, despair clouding her features. "What else can we do? No one will listen to us." "There's always a way," Nia replied firmly, "even if it means fighting harder than ever before." By morning, the toll of the past 24 hours had become unbearable. Maya sat hunched over the kitchen counter, her face buried in her hands. "I can't keep doing this," she choked out, tears streaming down her cheeks. Maybe we should just disappear. Let them win." Nia froze, her own doubts threatening to overwhelm her. For a moment, she didn't respond, letting the silence stretch between them. Then she reached across the table, gripping Maya's hand tightly. "No," she said, her voice unwavering despite the cracks beneath the surface. "We've sacrificed too much to give up now. If Valiant Tech wants to destroy us, fine. But we'll make sure the world knows exactly who they are and what they stand for." Maya looked up, her tear-streaked face reflecting a flicker of hope. "How?" "A lawsuit," Nia replied simply. "We expose everything, the discrimination, the stolen ideas, the lies, and we don't stop until justice is served." For the first time since the accusations began, Maya felt a spark of determination reignite within her. Filing the lawsuit wasn't easy. Every step felt like stepping deeper into uncharted territory, fraught with risk and uncertainty. Yet, as word spread about their legal battle, reactions poured in from all sides. Friends and family rallied behind them, offering support and encouragement. Strangers online began sharing their story, amplifying their voices against systemic injustice. But not everyone was sympathetic. Trolls dismissed them as opportunists seeking attention, while former colleagues labeled them troublemakers bent on revenge. Despite the backlash, Maya and Nia stood united, more resolute than ever. This isn't just about us anymore, Nia said during a late-night strategy session. It's about everyone who's been silenced, overlooked, or erased. We're taking back our power and theirs. Maya nodded, her earlier despair replaced by quiet strength. Then let's show them exactly what happens when you try to break people like us. With their decision made, the twins stepped boldly into the spotlight, ready to confront whatever came next. This is it, Nia whispered, her voice trembling as she scrolled through a string of internal emails on her laptop. Maya leaned closer, her eyes widening as she read the damning text. Asterisk, if we don't act now, those two will overshadow everything we've built here. Make sure they fail quietly. Asterisk, it was Claire's handwriting, or rather, her digital fingerprint, all over the messages. Each email revealed another calculated move to sabotage their careers. Dismissing their groundbreaking ideas, promoting less qualified colleagues, and even orchestrating false accusations against them. This isn't just negligence, it's deliberate destruction, Maya said, her voice rising with anger. She wanted us gone from day one. Nia nodded grimly, and she almost succeeded. But this, she gestured at the screen, this changes everything. For the first time in months, hope flickered in their hearts, but it came with a heavy dose of fear. Exposing these emails would mean confronting Claire directly, risking retaliation or worse. What if they try to bury this? Maya asked, biting her lip. They won't, Nia replied firmly. Not this time. We're ready for them. As dawn broke outside their apartment window, the twins knew they had uncovered the key to turning the tide. But the battle was far from over. Gregory Trent smirked as he addressed the courtroom, his tone dripping with condescension. Your Honor, these so-called emails are nothing more than fabricated nonsense designed to distract from the real issue. Before he could finish, Judge Elijah Rivers interrupted, his deep voice cutting through the air like thunder. Enough, Mr. Trent, Rivers barked, his piercing gaze locking onto Gregory. Your client's actions reek of cowardice and prejudice. If you continue down this path, I assure you, the consequences will be severe. The room fell silent, every head snapping toward the judge. Gregory stumbled back, visibly flustered, while Claire shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Maya exchanged a glance with Nia, both stunned by the unexpected intervention. For weeks, they'd felt powerless against Valiant Tech's legal team. But now, something shifted. Judge Rivers leaned forward, his expression unyielding. I expect honesty and integrity in my courtroom. Proceed accordingly. As Gregory fumbled to regain composure, the twins realized that for the first time, someone in authority wasn't just listening. They were demanding accountability. But there was still more to come. During closing arguments, Judge Rivers paused mid-sentence, his usual stoic demeanor faltering. His voice trembled slightly as he spoke words no one saw coming. There is something I must confess, something that may alter how you view this case. He took a deep breath, his gaze shifting toward Maya and Nia. I am your father. The courtroom erupted into murmurs, but for Maya and Nia, time seemed to stop. They stared at him, shock etched across their faces. What? Maya finally managed, her voice barely audible. Rivers held up a hand, signaling for silence. Your mother kept my identity hidden to protect you, from enemies who sought to harm me during my fight against systemic racism decades ago. I never stopped loving her, or thinking about you both. Nia clenched her fists under the table, her mind racing. Why now? Why tell us this here? Because you deserve to know the truth, and because it explains why I've dedicated my life to justice. Rivers replied, his voice thick with emotion. You carry my legacy, whether you knew it or not. Maya felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Anger, confusion, betrayal. But beneath it all, a spark of understanding began to form. Their father hadn't abandoned them. He'd been fighting the same battles they faced today. That evening, Maya paced their hotel room, her thoughts spiraling. How are we supposed to process this? One minute we're fighting for our careers, and the next we find out our judge is our dad. It's insane. Nia sat on the edge of the bed, her expression thoughtful. I know it's overwhelming, but think about what he said, that he spent his entire life battling the same forces we're up against. Maybe that's why we're so determined to win. Maya stopped pacing, her shoulders slumping. Do you really believe that? Or do you think he has some ulterior motive? I don't know, Nia admitted. But I do know one thing. Learning about his sacrifices makes me want to fight harder. Not just for us, for him too. Maya hesitated, then nodded slowly. You're right. We can't let fear or doubt hold us back anymore. If he gave up everything to stand against injustice, we owe it to him and ourselves to see this through. Their resolve hardened. The twins prepared to face whatever came next. Just as the trial seemed to reach a tipping point, an unexpected ally emerged. A former colleague from Valiant Tech approached Maya and Nia outside the courthouse, clutching a USB drive. You need this, the whistleblower said urgently. It's proof of everything Claire did, not just to you, but to others who dared challenge her. Maya accepted the drive, her heart pounding. Why are you helping us? Because I'm tired of staying silent, the whistleblower replied. What happened to you isn't fair, and neither is what she's done to countless others. It's time someone held her accountable. Back inside the courtroom, armed with the new evidence, Maya and Nia felt the momentum shift decisively in their favor. With each revelation, Claire and Gregory grew increasingly desperate, their defenses crumbling under the weight of undeniable truth. As the final arguments approached, the twins knew they weren't alone in this fight. Allies had risen, justice loomed closer, and the world was watching. Justice will be served today, Judge Elijah Rivers declared, his voice resonating through the courtroom like a thunderclap. Maya and Nia exchanged glances, their hearts pounding as they braced for what was coming next. Across the room, Claire Harper sat frozen, her polished facade crumbling under the weight of impending defeat. Gregory Trent fumbled with his notes, visibly shaken as he realized the tide had turned irreversibly against them. The court finds in favor of the plaintiffs, Judge Rivers continued, his tone unyielding. Valiant Tech is ordered to pay substantial damages and implement sweeping reforms to address systemic discrimination within its ranks. A collective gasp rippled through the gallery. For Maya and Nia, it felt surreal, like years of pain, struggle, and resilience had finally culminated in this moment. Tears streamed down Maya's face as she turned to Nia, pulling her into a tight embrace. We did it, Nia whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. As applause erupted. Around them, Claire buried her face in her hands while Gregory muttered something under his breath about appeals. But even he knew the battle was lost. The verdict wasn't just a win for Maya and Nia. It was a reckoning for every injustice they'd endured and exposed along the way. Yet, as the noise settled, both sisters couldn't shake the feeling that this victory was only the beginning. Their fight had ignited something far greater than either of them could have imagined. Within hours, videos from the trial flooded social media platforms. Clips of Judge Rivers' ruling went viral, sparking conversations across continents. News anchors dissected the case, calling it a landmark decision in the fight against workplace discrimination. Activists praised Maya and Nia for their courage, hailing them as symbols of resilience and empowerment. But not everyone celebrated. Trolls spewed venomous comments, accusing the twins of seeking attention or exploiting their identities. Yet, for every hateful remark, there were thousands of supportive messages drowning out the noise. This isn't just our story anymore, Maya said late one night, scrolling through endless posts and hashtags dedicated to their journey. Nia nodded, her eyes reflecting a mix of awe and determination. People are using this moment to demand change, not just at Valiant Tech but everywhere. We've become part of something bigger than ourselves. For the first time, they understood the true scale of their impact. What started as a personal battle had evolved into a global movement, inspiring others to speak up and challenge oppressive systems. And yet, as empowering as it felt, Maya and Nia knew they couldn't stop here. There was still work to be done and voices to amplify. Standing before a massive crowd of supporters, Maya gripped the microphone tightly, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. We didn't choose this fight. It chose us, she began, pausing as cheers erupted around her. But we won't stop until everyone gets the justice they deserve. Beside her, Nia stepped forward, her words carrying the weight of their shared history. Our father taught us that power isn't given, it's taken. And today we took ours back. The crowd roared, holding signs that read, "Justice for all," and chanting slogans inspired by the twins' journey. It was electric, a sea of unity fueled by hope and defiance. As the energy surged, Maya and Nia exchanged a glance, silently reaffirming their commitment to the cause. This wasn't the end of their story. It was a new chapter, one where they would continue to advocate, educate, and inspire others to dismantle the barriers holding so many back. Their message resonated deeply, leaving the audience inspired and ready to act. But for Maya and Nia, the real work was just getting started. What did you think of Maya and Nia's journey? Did Judge Rivers' reveal leave you speechless? Their story may have reached its climax, but the conversation doesn't end here. Every voice matters in the fight against systemic racism and injustice. Share your thoughts in the comments below. How did their journey resonate with you? What steps can we take together to create lasting change? If you found this story powerful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who need to hear it. Together, we can keep these vital conversations alive and push for meaningful progress. Remember, *change starts with courage. Be brave enough to speak up. *.